Hello, this is Targor. This video is a Twitch stream that was not edited, so it's gonna look like a Twitch stream. Welcome to my vision of Classic Plus. The design direction of my vision of Classic Plus is substantially different from that of retail WoW circa Shadowlands and the private service Vanilla Plus and Turtle WoW. This is partially because it sustains to fix Vanilla World of Warcraft's many problems first, flash out and polish again second, what's already there second, and add new content third. This is part of a playlist of videos. Check this video's description for a link to the playlist. The document displays my vision of World of Warcraft Classic Plus, and the document's version number is 1.5.15. All versions of the document are based upon patch 1.12.2 of the World of Warcraft, that is, the patch right before the Burning Crusade pre-patch, when it was still legitimately vanilla. If you just want to know about the general design direction of my vision of Classic Plus before you otherwise look into this, then watch the introductory video in its playlist, or read the document yourself, and look at the list of major features. The link to the document is on my channel's About page. That, and I do not have a team of people or however working with me to make an actual private server out of this. This is all pure design thus far, and it ain't done yet. None of most of this game's items are pending re-itemization, though I have laid out the groundwork for it. Delete, edit, save video scripts.txt. This subsection of this document covers items that had specific itemization changes made to them. Specific items that had itemization changes made to them that do not fit in other subsections of this document. This subsection does not concern items crafted by professions. See the relevant sections about the products of professions for itemization. About the products of professions for information about said items. Real quick, I'm going to scroll up to selected section 3 items includes item agenda, item also quality changes, item intentions with lighting changes, HPF and MP5 changes, sweep and itemization changes, itemization methodology. This video, specific itemization changes, also products on these changes, unequipable item changes, weapons changes, drop changes, inventory, container changes, containers that go in your inventory like bags, item name changes, and other item changes. Anyway, the actual subject of the video. I scrolled down too far. So, Fightblade throwing axes, the throwing weapons from War Master Boon will grant you 22 range attack power when worn because I kind of want all range weapons to spend our itemization points on something, and in the case of throwing weapons in particular, I want absolutely none of them to be stat sticks, to be worn as stat sticks, because of their very limited nature. Do note that throwing weapons start their attack sooner than other ranged weapons do. They do not have a starting cast time. You just start throwing them instantly, if I recall correctly. Or at least I'm pretty sure that you start throwing them sooner than you fire other ranged weapons. So throwing weapons do have some sort of use over other ranged weapons, but they're not stat sticks and they have a limited nature, and you can't enchant them. Anyway, moving on. Breastplate of the Chromatic Flight will have its fire resistance replaced with an amount of resist stall for thematic reasons. It's kind of made of chromatic dragon scales, if I recall correctly, so yeah. Chromatic boots will have an appropriate amount of resist stall on them. They're made of chromatic dragon scales, or at least they implicitly are. Red Dragon Scale Protector will have an amount of fire resistance on it for thematic reasons. Again, note that most of the game's items are pending re-itemization. All these changes in this section are just part of the re-itemization, or in the case of these throwing axes, all of them. These throwing axes and specific other items that, yeah. Anyway, Red Dragon Scale Protector is going to have fire resistance. Stoneskin Gargoyle Cape is going to have bonus armor. Black Skull Shield will be re-itemized that it is a casting shield in order to differentiate from the Green Tower. Do note that in a previous video I mentioned that I'm going to increase the item level of the Green Tower to 44, and its character level requirement to 39. So it's good. While Black Skull Shield is still going to be character level 41, item level 46, so it's going to be pretty close to Green Tower. Anyway, Dragon's Blood capable of resist stall instead of fire, nature, and arcane resist. Abyssal Layer Shoulders, Mail Pauldrons, and Plate Epaulets, you know, the suffix shoulders of the special suffixes from the Solstice World bosses. Those are going to grant 8 stamina instead of 1 hit before their suffixes are applied. This is to prevent the items from being hyper-offensive. Similarly for Abyssal Leather Leggings, Abyssal Blade Leg Guards, and Abyssal Blade Leg Plates, 8 stamina instead of 1 crit. For the sake of consistency, Abyssal Cloth, Shoulders, and Leggings, Amethyst Leggings will be similarly changed. 8 stamina instead of 1 spell crit or spell hit. Again, before the suffix is applied. Testament of Hope on these effects will have a 5-minute cooldown and heal the user for 805 to 886 hit points and may be used at any amount of hit points, so not just low health. Design note, well, if you actually want to read that, basically, I actually re-itemized the item proper. I went over profession cooldowns and the offensive optimization budget reduction for profession buffs, and it being treated as a 70% profession in the previous video, if I recall correctly. In case I did not go over that properly, I will in the next video. Speaking of which, I forgot to write this down. All such unused effects will be re-itemized as if they were profession cooldowns that are associated with professions that have many options that are easily switching. Are associated with professions that have many cooldown options that are easily switched between, and thus get 70% of the normal profession cooldown budget. Moving on. Yeah, that's mentioned elsewhere in this document, by the way. So yeah, moving on. Slime encrusted pads, those weird shoulders from Eternus the Devourer and the Wailing Caverns, the Murloc boss. Instead of giving health for 4, it's going to give health for 5, and it'll also give some offensive stats. Also, as I mentioned in the previous video, health for 5 got a whole lot of changes. Hell Venomous Rage, the plate hat from Veilstraw's Corrupt and Blackwind Glare. Well, as it's only stat other than its base armor, it's going to give you 1 rage every 6 seconds during combat, or not. Seal the Dawn and wait. Yeah, during combat. How about anger management? That's, if I recall correctly, is what I meant. Seal the Dawn and Runity Dawn will also increase your attack power or spell damage versus teams by the same amount as they do versus undead. However, because of the sweeping itemization changes, those values will be reduced. The stats granted by these suffixes of Vorpal Dagger will be halved. Vorpal Dagger is a BOE green world drop with a random suffix on it. But the dagger will also instantly kill any level 1 through 10 target that it hits because it has Vorpal in its name, so it kind of has to be Vorpal versus something. Runeblade of Bear Rivendare will no longer grant increased movement speed and health regeneration while equipped. Instead, it'll grant 1 attack power to the wielder and grant the wielder an aura that grants all players within a 30-yard radius 2% melee slash range haste and 4 health for 5, kind of like Unholy Aura from Warcraft 3. Design note, 60/40 optimization split for 2 stats. The 1 attack power came from less optimization points. The aura is treated as 1 stat. Excuse me, the aura is treated as 2 stats because this is 1 stat, melee and slash range haste, and 4 health for 5 is the 2nd stat. And then, yeah, the attack power came from less optimization points to just make sure I can spend the rest of the budget. In this case, in an arbitrary manner. Anyway, Headmaster's Charge will have as its total stats, other than weapon damage, 17 stamina, 17 spirit, and an aura that gives you 12 int, but its aura will be passive. It'll have the same radius as before. So it's kind of like Brilliant Aura from Warcraft 3. In this case, it's already there, however. The nature resistance gear to drop in the Nightmare Dragons, barring Green Dragon Skin Cloak, will be re-itemized to not necessarily have nature resistance on them. I do not want World Boss Loot to be too desirable for resistance fights, seeing as how such gear is very difficult to get your hands on. Of course, if it has Green Dragon Skin or Green Dragon Scale or something like that in its name, then it's going to have nature resistance on it. Otherwise, it's not necessarily going to have nature resistance on it. I do not want people to have to do world bosses in order to get resistance gear for Encourage, nor do I want people to feel like they have to. Moving on. Yeah, the World Boss loot is way too competitive for it to be a reliable source of loot. In fact, as mentioned in a different part of this section that I'm, excuse me, as mentioned in under the drop changes subsection, all World Box loot is going to be item level 63, character level 58 epics, and it'll be BOE because I do not want any of it to be best in slot forever. Which means that people are going to need to have a reason to kill them, therefore it's going to be BOE. Anyway, Hammer of Bestial Fury will be re-itemized for Subtlety Rogues and maybe have its speed changed too. Do note that Subtlety Rogues, in case they actually read this document, or have watched a video on Subtlety Rogues that I haven't made yet, Subtlety Rogues are going to want a main hand weapon of middling speed and an offhand weapon of, I forget how fast, but not necessarily middling speed. Now I remember, they're going to want their offhand to be fast or poison procs. But their main hand, they're going to want that to be a middling speed for complicated reasons that I will be going over in the eventual video on Subtlety Rogue changes, in order to get the maximum amount of damage per second in raids, and PvP also. Well, also PvP if I executed it right. But anyway, I'll get to that in the Subtlety Rogue video eventually. Captain of Scarlet Savant will no longer be equipable by druids for reasons that I'll go over in the druids video. Itemization will no longer have class restrictions. Let's go over it now. Basically, I do not want druids to compete with philosophies for loot. Period. Philosophies get their loot. Druids get their own loot that's made just for them. But they don't have to compete for philosophy loot except weapons, and offhands do not count. Or rings or amulets or cloaks. Or trinkets. Doesn't count here. Anyway. Itemization will no longer have anyways, in order to accomplish that for druids, I just made druids, they don't have cloth proficiency anymore. Period. However, for other such rods or other classes, I instead gave those other classes penalties when they wear gear that they're not supposed to wear, and I gave them level ranges during which they do not get those penalties for specific equipment slots. But yeah, I'll go over that in the videos for those classes when I get to them. Anyway, next up, Itemization will no longer have class restrictions on it because why the hell should it? Book of the Dead will no longer have passive stats on it, and its on-use effects cooldown will be reduced to 5 minutes. And its summon skeleton will be level 58 and deal an average of 87 damage per hit, barring crits, and persist for 1 minute before despawning. Ancient Cornerstone Grimoire will no longer have passive stats on it, and its on-use effects will, instead of what it did before, summon a level 60 Skeletal Mage for 1 minute on a 5-minute cooldown that spams Scorch, dealing 30 to 38 fire damage per spellcast, or melee for an average of 45 damage per hit if interrupted for silence. Design note to determine its mana bar and its Scorch's mana cost at some point. It's going to be able to spam Scorch for the whole minute if nothing mana bursts or something. Anyway, Marketed Dragon Lord, that epic ring from the final boss of the Lord Blackrock Spire over Burntflack, its only stat is going to be an on-use effect that instantly lights an enemy within 30 yards on fire, dealing 139 fire damage every 3 seconds for 18 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown. That is 139 times 6 equals 834 damage over time on a 3-minute cooldown. Do note that, again, did I already mention this? This is going to invoke a random profession cooldown because it is an on-use effect from equipment that is not a trinket nor requires and does not require a profession to wear. What is a profession cooldown? I might as well just go over this now. A specific combat altering bonus and intellectual ability that is not necessarily tied to the equipment that primary professions. That is not necessarily tied to equipment that primary professions grant to player in order to make engineering not be the end-all be-all best profession in the entire game by leaps and bounds. Such buffs include a permanent bonus to its stat, an activated ability of some sort, or the ability to use an item or enchant. Yes, enchant that requires the profession at a specific level or higher, and possibly with a specific profession specialization in order to make use of it in the first place. Yes, there are going to be special enchants that do nothing if you do not have the required profession specialization, or just profession at a specified level, and enchants that give you on-use effects while you have them equipped, in the form of temporarily granting you access to a spell. So yeah, that does it for the specific itemization changes thus far, aside from thumbnails of these videos. Thanks for watching.